Oh, well, hello there. Didn't see you. It's Mr. Clausner here. Just want to go through this, share my screen. This is what we did this week in class. Um, and it's a fun little thing. Those of you that were absent, or maybe somebody is watching this later on down the road, we'll see. This is my screen is shared. Let's present. This is my Mr. Clausner's introduction. So hello and come on in, have a seat. This is me. I played tennis in high school. These are photographs from when I was a younger man playing all the sports. I love sports. I'm from Springfield, Illinois. Some notable people that came from that place are Abraham Lincoln, our 16th president, and Andre Iguodala, who once reffed one of my high school or middle school basketball games. So, little fun fact. I also read his book recently, The Sixth Man. He's an awesome person, really wise, and absolutely great basketball player. This is my backyard in 1995, 1996. So you can see it's not very developed, but you can see they've got a lot of something growing there in the field. I'm not sure quite what that is. I don't think it's, I don't know, just brush. Maybe the farmer was just letting it go that year. You can, well, it was winter. Oh gosh, of course. So you can see the snow. This is my backyard. Normally it's a cornfield, so that's when it's harvested, and this is in the middle of the summer. And this is a nice little sunset photo there over the cornfields. This is my childhood home where my parents still live in Springfield, and there's me on the right as a young boy, and that's probably my favorite basketball hoop in the world. Spent hours and hours out there reenacting all sorts of NBA Finals three-point shots and trying to dunk and all that fun stuff. And here's a picture from me from the old days. So I had my birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese. I'm not sure quite what year this is, but that's a fun group of people and people I'm still in touch with and care about. There's my 5th grade picture. I went to Glenwood Intermediate School in Chatham, Illinois. And so on the right, there's my middle school photo. So currently I teach middle schoolers, and you can see that there. On the left, these are me and my 3 siblings cheering on the Northwestern Wildcats, where my parents are alum, and then my brother ended up going there later on. These are my grandparents on my mother's side. So my maternal grandparents, my grandmother on the left and my grandfather on the right, and that's me playing football. As you can see on the left there, I was as I don't know, maybe middle schooler, early middle school. And we were at Disneyland at that time. And then on the right, I was our high school prom king, which was really fun. And that's me and my mother there. On the left, you can see I'm repping St. Louis and Keep on Duncan t-shirt. And then my best friend, Alec, and a really good friend, Jaron, on the right. There's my friend, Zach, and I in middle school. We thought we were cool, had all the swag, but probably not. This is the front of entrance to my school. It was all indoors, so that's a little different than how I teach in Hawaii. And I now, in 2015, moved to Big Island in Naalehu. That's where I lived, and I taught at Pahala Elementary School in Pahala. And that's in the district of Ka'u, which is where the first people landed coming from the Marquesas Islands, and then later on from the Tahitian Islands, and the first settlements and the transition to Hawaiian culture, Hawaiian people. And so you can see my view from my deck there, and then we would go lobster diving and spearfishing every now and then on the Big Island. This is also in Ka'u. This is KILAUEA, or the home of Pele. So the volcano, Halemaumau crater, a couple of years ago with the lava glow. And I believe I'm on the far left in that one. Not the best picture, but this is Papakolea, one of only 3 green sands beaches in the world. And this is in Ka'u. So this is all kind of a highlight of Ka'u now. Punalu'u Beach, very famous black sands beach. Really important cultural center for all of Ka'u. And this is also Punalu'u, our one and only playable tennis court with some really good friends there. This is also in Ka'u. It's in Ocean View. It's a beautiful, beautiful beach after walking through about an hour of lava rock. This is at South Point, so the southernmost point in Hawaii. Very famous jump, so it's about 30 feet. You can climb up that hoist there and make it about 40 feet. And it's quite the thrill and quite refreshing when you hit the water. I coach football over there, so you can see our football coaches here at KILAUEA, and I was in the back there and helped with wide receivers and quarterbacks. Also had a lot of friends who were Paniolo Hawaiian Cowboys, so I was invited to, go to some rodeo roundups and help mug cattle, as well as a lot of my students were fishermen and avid hunters. Were able to grow their own food. A very rural place, able to live off the land, which was something I really love and appreciate about that place. Also, we have the national park in Kau. So now I live in Hawaii, or on Oahu. So I still live in Hawaii, but a different island. Don't live on Hawaii Island anymore. I live on Oahu, and this picture from the east side of Hawaii. That's me on the left walking. So what do I love to do? Well, this presentation is for my students. So first and foremost, I love to teach, and I love mathematics. So I love what math can allow you to do in your life, and it's brought me a lot of joy, just being able to understand mathematics and understand finance and understand a lot of what makes a really good life. I love to travel, and I also love when I can play any kind of sport. I love being healthy and active. If I have a free minute, I'll be reading books and learning at nighttime. I enjoy watching good movies. And with friends, I debate philosophy and the meaning of life, also study religion and mythology, and I love to learn. And I really enjoy looking at art and writing poetry, and I love to learn about space, the universe, and beyond. And I listen to all kinds of music. I love Hawaiian culture. And finally, I love dismantling unjust systems. So that's a really important part of how I teach. I don't just teach students about math and the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s, but it's about how to, utilize our personal love and who we are to help disrupt the unjust systems that are around us, whether it's racist system or sexist or, homophobic or xenophobic, any kind of system that is not creating equality and equity and creating justice for our people is one that we need to dismantle, and utilizing our power and privilege and who we are to educate and empower others to also continue that fight. So very important thing for me. And finally, I love to learn about myself, my friends. I love to set goals and my family, and I love to learn about my community. And I used to live in San Francisco. I love books, and then I also video games, so my students like that. Here's some former students I love to teach. This is at Imiloa Astronomy Center, so KOU students, St. Louis students from my first year, KOU students again, 5th grade. We were doing hour of coding there. I love to support my students, so I always want you to invite me to your games. Last year I went to volleyball, basketball, football, wrestling, and soccer. So I'm always looking forward to supporting my students. Here are a couple students playing some games. Game-based learning is a huge part of my tenets, so we're gonna play a lot of games and also gamify the classroom a lot, and some amazing students there. And I love to travel, so I've actually been to all 7 continents, been to about 35 countries, 46 out of the 50 states. So I'm pretty well traveled, and I love to explore. I love to share my knowledge and also learn from others all around the world. And this is I took all these photos. So this is in Sapa, Vietnam. You can see the rice terraces there. A very beautiful place, picturesque. Paris, France, the Eiffel Tower on the left. Costa Rica, looking out over the mountains on Turrialba, and then Colorado and the Rocky Mountains on the bottom right. It's Niagara Falls on the left, and I love museums and art, so the National Museum of African Art in Washington, D.C., the mall. I visited there. The picture on the left is from Vietnam. The picture on the right is from Agra, India, when I visited the Taj Mahal. Incredible place. This is a map itinerary of my trip to Antarctica. So I actually made continental landfall at Waterboat Point and was able to step on my 7th continent. And that was a really fun experience. And I got to hang with the penguins and see orca whales and see harbors, or a whole bunch of seals. It was a really good time. On the right is Fushimi Inara, a shrine in Kyoto, Japan. One of my favorite places in the world, actually. On the left is a beautiful waterfall in very hidden parts of Costa Rican rainforest. So I teach at a Catholic school, like and this is Christ the Redeemer, but this is not in Rio. This is actually a smaller version in La Rioja, Argentina. This is the Golden Palace, also in Kyoto, Japan. On the top is a picture of the very famous painting in Manila in the Philippines, and the bottom is kind of cut out, but it's a picture of the St. Louis Blues playing against the Chicago Blackhawks, who are my favorite hockey team, in Busch Stadium in St. Louis. On the left is Sequoia National Park in California. On the top right is London, Big Ben, with the London Eye in the back, and then the Globe Theater in the bottom right. I love going to watch plays in Shakespeare. This is a Bixby Bridge in California, in Big Sur, so very famous, and I tell my students it's in a lot of car commercials. Here's one of the most spectacular places, just the scale of it. It is truly grand, the Grand Canyon in Arizona, the Louvre in Paris, Hong Kong, going to the beaches there, and the Duwamish Longhouse and Cultural Center in Seattle, the Outback on the Indian Pacific Railroad going across the continent and the country of Australia. This was at the French Open in 2015, Wimbledon 2016, the US in 2017, and my final Grand Slam tournament as a fan was the Australian Open in 2018. The National Museum of Art in Manila, and Dim Sum in Hong Kong. And then on the right is in San Carlos de Bariloche in northern Patagonia, Argentina. And then top left is one of my favorite things I've ever seen, is just this black bamboo. It's beautiful. It's on the Big Island. And I played sprint football in college. So some of my students are very active in sports. I love all kinds of sports. I love to hike in the top right. And I've gotten recently into weightlifting and just taking care of my body that way. I love to golf. I've grown up playing a lot of golf. I'm not that good, but I play bogey golf, so I don't know if that's good. But I love soccer. This is a very good memory for me. This are my colleagues from Arista Networks. We would play every Tuesday and Thursday. It was something I look forward to, get me through the week. And this is a photo of my car's trunk, and I always have all my equipment ready to go, and then my students love to see the high school photo of me there in the newspaper. There's me in the bottom left, and my dad actually was the coach of that team. You can see him on the top left. And now I've got into a new hobby, a new sport, which is surfing. And you can see a longboard here. This is about 200 years old, I believe they said this surfboard was. That's my board on the right. It's also a longboard, not quite as long as that one, but 10 foot. I love to surf. My goal is to get to the nose and do the little lean back like that photo on the bottom. I also love jump training and trying to dunk, and I'm getting pretty close. I love to bike, and there's my bicycle. I love to watch hockey and play hockey. And I love to take photos of basketball hoops and palm trees. Those are my two subjects, my favorite subjects. I created the Hawaii's Hoops Instagram. So if you want to give it a follow, go for it. Just to catalog and then document street ball and basketball culture here in Hawaii. And then as well as soccer on the Big Island. So this is not a Harry Potter scene. This is actually from Uris Library at Cornell University, where I got my undergraduate degree. And I love to read books. I love to learn. This is the Law Library on the left, and Around the World in 80 Days, my favorite novel, on the right. And some of the books from my home. I love to read on the beach, one of my favorite things to do. Again, reading on the beach, my libraries. I love to debate philosophy. I love to study about religion and mythology and God, and learn about, the heavens above and the moral law within, as Immanuel Kant would say. And I also love to learn about space and the universe and beyond, and think about what's beyond our little blue planet and all the billions of potentialities of life and existence elsewhere, and all the true gift of life. And this is me, and my uncle works at NASA. He actually took those photo cutouts, which is pretty cool. And I enjoy listening to all kinds of music and learning about Hawaiian music and culture. And I'm actually listening to classical music right now. So you'll see that in the classroom, we'll always have classical on, Hawaiian music on, rap and hip hop and Latino mix and reggae and oldies and rock and K-pop. And I have no shame in blasting out the Princess and the Frog soundtrack. And I love all Disney tunes. That's kind of what my family and I grew up on. And I love learning about Hawaiian culture. So I love to eat fresh poi, and pound poi, and learn about the lo'i and how to honor and preserve and protect Hawaiian culture, and also pass that knowledge on to our keiki. And so playing konane on the right, konane and makahiki games, very important. The imu from last year, helping out, learning about that native Hawaiian tradition. I also love art, so I was able to view the Rio Starry Night, Vincent Van Gogh's. It's $100 million, and very expensive painting. And I love movies, so I love film. I love studying about film history and what makes great film, and I love reading all the critiques and all that. But I do have some favorites that maybe didn't win a bunch of awards, but are really special films to me. V for Vendetta, the Wachowski siblings, Wes Anderson films, Grand Budapest Hotel is maybe one of my favorite films of all time. I love the Star Wars series. I always have. There I am on the left, and my brother, both dressed in Star Wars character garb. And I love a movie called The Silent Voice, which is a Japanese film. I've seen every Bond film. I'm a big Bond fan. I don't like the misogyny of the old Bonds, but the new stories and the idea of stopping harm in such a grand scale in a great way is very intriguing to me. I love Ratatouille. I love Star Wars. I love anything by Tarantino. Django Unchained is one of the best films I've ever seen, and one incredible bit of acting. True Grit, and No Country for Old Men are two of my favorites by the Coen brothers. And I love any and all Disney films, so you can see more Star Wars. This is not my rankings. I actually wasn't the biggest fan of Monsters, Inc. or The Incredibles, or The Good Dinosaur, but the rest on here, all top-notch. WALL-E and Ratatouille, Inside Out. Those are some of the best films I've ever seen. But my favorite from Disney Animation Studios was Zootopia, an incredible movie. And these people are really important to me. So this is my family, my father in the middle, my mother to his left, and my older sister Mary, my older brother Dylan, and then myself and my little sister Elizabeth. We call her E-L-L-E. And my newest member of my family is my 1-year-old, as of 2 days ago, niece, Margot Robbie Bruno, who's the daughter of my sister, Mary, and her husband, Jamie. It's my brother-in-law. And then my parents are at El Coyote, their favorite little spot in Los Angeles. My great aunt, Cirilla, who I talk to frequently and love very much. I think it's important to honor your elders, and she's someone who's shaped me, as well as my grandma, Emily, my maternal grandmother. And here, Dylan and Mary and I are with her in 2018. And there she was when she was a little bit younger. These people made me who I am. I wouldn't be here without them, so I must honor them and always live for them. And there's Luke and Emily, my two cousins. This is a long time ago photo because now they're in 7th and 8th grade, or 6th and 7th grade. Very, 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 very great to have family. And these people are also really important. So I tell all my students, you're not my student for 1 year, you're my student for life. So I have students from this class, my first class in 2015, still reach out to me. And one just messaged me on Facebook just 2 days ago. These are really important people in my life that I gave a lot to, and they gave a lot back. These are students from St. Louis, and students from Ko'u, and my very good friends on Shane and Alec at Ben Parks' amazing wedding. And there's Natalie, my friend from Google, who came and visited our classroom my second year with my amazing students, Ocean and Joe and Ralph, and Danny, such a great group, Kama, and Sheldon, Dominic, amazing group of students. Here's some students from last year and former teacher friends. And Moses on the left, one of my best buddies. Two of my amazing students from my first year, Shania and Marquis, practicing their Zen Buddhist, their meditation practices. The ropes course, this was my second class again. Some football players on the right, football player of mine, and my family on the left on a FaceTime. This was my third class on May Day. What an amazing group of people these were. and still are. And I just love this photo because at that time, Cadence on the right there had a bloody nose, and I forced her to take the photo, but she still throws the shotgun. And some of my students from 7th grade in 2019, 2020, friends from home, really good people and important in my life, and Mitch and Shane and Ryan. And, sure, Taylor's in there somewhere. Maybe he's not. Taylor's always in these photos, but there's Vince and Connor, really good friends, Nate, Jake. It's quite a nice thing to have friends like that for life. That's my friend Elijah on the Big Island, my tennis partner. Awesome students. My siblings, again, cheering on Northwestern. Some of the deaf students I worked with in Vietnam, so they taught me a lot of sign language, and I'll never forget that. Some of the kindergartners I taught in my 4th year, doing the sign for whale, and then some of my first-year students as they had grown up and they're now sophomores in high school, which is incredible because I had them, they were in 5th grade. In my 3rd class here, Jeremiah climbing up the walls. My mother's family with uncles and cousins, and my grandma in the middle. And then a few years later with my grandma and great aunt, and the family is all kind of grown up a little bit. And there's my brother with his wife, Sandra, my sister-in-law, and my sister, Elle, with her cat, Tina, in Los Angeles. And my second group of students doing a beach cleanup at KILAUEA on the Big Island. My dad and I, this was not a nighttime photo, this was taken during about 1:30 p.m. during the solar eclipse. So the sky went dark and we had to have the glasses to look at it. My dad's side of family, aunts and uncles there. And then my first-year students with Starbase doing water rockets. And so these are the places I've been in education, and I love education. I love what schools represent and what kind of amazing things go on in them. And I learned as a student in my high school in Glenwood, and then I went to Tulane University for 1 year. I studied abroad at the University of New South Wales in Australia for half a year, and the rest of the time I was getting my undergraduate degree from Cornell University. I then got a master's degree online through Teach for America in education through Johns Hopkins School of Education. And I'm currently pursuing my second master's degree, my MBA from Chaminade University here in Honolulu. And I've taught a little bit all over. I taught as a teacher for a summer in Arizona. I was a tutor in Australia, Louisiana, and New York. And then I taught alongside my brother who was in the Peace Corps. I taught basketball and English for 2 weeks, two to 3 weeks in Cambodia. I worked alongside a very good friend of mine in Namibia, teaching computer skills in Namibia. And then I taught for 3 months in Costa Rica, and I taught for 1 month in Vietnam. And then I taught 4 years on the Big Island in Pahala Elementary School, and now it's my 2nd year at St. Louis School. And that's me. I kind of grew out a big beard there a couple years ago, and I'm graduating from Cornell in this photo with my brother. He was getting his master's degree at the same time, which is really, really fun. And these are some of my favorite teams. So my students always ask, like, who do you root for? Who do you cheer for? I love cricket and tennis, a little bit more individual sports, not quite, I don't quite have a team for cricket, but I love Chicago teams, Chicago Bears, the Blackhawks, the Bulls. I love Man U, and I root for the Rockies in baseball. I also like the Lakers. I tell a story. I didn't quite ask for much when I was a young kid, but one time I went to my mom and asked for a Kobe jersey, and she got it for me, and I wore that thing to threads, which was pretty fun. And then I root for Boca Juniors in Argentina, FC Barcelona in Spain, and Northwestern, and all NCAA things. I like to surf now, so I watch surfers. I cheer for some St. Louis teams, and the South Sydney Rabbitohs and the Sydney Swans are my Australian rules football and rugby teams. And I love knowledge, and knowledge is power. Information is liberating. Education is the premise of progress in every society and every family, and I aim to give my students knowledge. And that's a quote from Kofi Annan. And I aim to give you self-knowledge, self-love, and a love of exploration rooted in your community contribution. I want you to love yourself, your classmates, school. And I want my students to love books, love math, and truly love learning. So that's a little bit about me. I know that's a lot longer than I expected, but Oh, and I always end this one. So behave, be nice, learn a lot. And I hope you paid attention, because I will grow out a scary beard and make you pay attention if you didn't. That's it. So I'm going to stop recording. Thank you for listening.